Well, we are doing a presentation sort of like, this is what sex ed should look like in specifically high schools. And so some of the things that we might say or go over are kind of, you're kind of going to be like, I'm in college, I know that, you know. So so we don't mean to like demean anyone or say like we don't think that you all know this already or anything like that. It's just sort of like a more basic thing, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to say that before we start. Welcome to Sex Ed with Alyssa and Lil Red. Ding! Comments and questions during and after are fine. And we're about to do this presentation in like less than 20 minutes, like 15 minutes. And really this should be taught over like the course of somebody's life, like starting at age 0, we believe that people should be taught about consent and to ask somebody before they touch them and to tell somebody if somebody doesn't ask before touching them. But, you know, this is just super, you know, condensed into this amount of time, and optimally it would be over a long period of time. And also, like, I might ask for audience participation, but you never have to do anything. And so the first thing that I was going to do is audience participation. So everybody raise your right hand. You can do the L if you don't remember which one it is. And you can repeat after me. I will never feel ashamed for not having had sex.
I will never feel ashamed for not having had sex.
I will never feel ashamed for having had sex.
I will never feel ashamed for having had sex.
And that applies to masturbation, fetishes, just like a lot of things about sex. Because unfortunately a lot of things in our life say both things. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are put on people who haven't had sex or haven't had sex in a long time or haven't had a certain type of sex, that like, you know, there's something wrong with them or something like that. But then it also goes the other way, that that a lot of shame is put on people who have had sex or have had certain types of sex, or whatever. And the first thing that I would like to go over is consent. You can start consent really early in a relationship before sex is even like introduced. So like you can ask somebody if you can hold their hand or if you can kiss them before you do, and then that way when you're in the bedroom it's not like an awkward thing all of a sudden. We are hoping to make this presentation as queer inclusive as possible. Right now a lot of sex ed in high school is not very queer inclusive. For example, they don't talk about how to use dental dams and stuff like that. There's also, sex education is also dominated by like white straight females a lot of the time, and so, which unfortunately sort of, it's a kind of an issue with race, because it's like sort of teaching that, you know, you don't have to know a lot about sex if you're another ethnicity besides white, which I think is a huge problem. And then the last thing that I want to go over is the difference between sex and gender really quick. Sex is more about bodies and chromosomes, and I don't know if I said that right, chromosomes? And gender is more about what somebody identifies. And right now in our society it's seen as abnormal if somebody identifies as a different gender than their sex is. But me and Derek believe that that either way is normal. For our sex ed presentation, we're going to focus on young black men who have sex with men, because they're very not included in sex education, traditional sex education presentations in high schools. Maybe that piece of paper. Sorry, I know that I talk a lot at the beginning. I promise Lil Red's going to talk. Just wait a minute. Why did you write New Variant at the top?
Because I need
Okay.
you.
So we discovered that young black men who have sex with men have much higher rates of especially HIV, but also other STIs, compared with the general population. we both studied this in the United States, and we find an article that says that the same thing is happening in the UK. So it's a pretty worldwide phenomenon. And they have comparable or lower rates of unprotected anal sex. So it doesn't really make sense that this population would have higher rates of STIs if they have comparable or lower rates of unprotected, just sex in general, unprotected oral sex, whatever. So Loretta's going to talk about why that may be.
So another point is we want to make it so that, STIs, don't discriminate physically. Basically, anyone can get an STI if they were being not careful. So basically, an answer for this, or for the why young black MSMs might be have a higher rate of HIV and STIs is because down low, which means basically that you're having sex with other men, yet still pursuing a heterosexual relationship with a woman, and most of the time having unprotected sex with both partners at the same time. So passing, basically, you can say body fluids, aka STIs, STDs, if y'all were, doing bang bang. But another reason also maybe due to a smaller network, so say if you have a chick on the side, having sex with her, you have a certain selection of men who you have sex with. Eventually, someone else might catch something and then give it to you, so then you could give it to your female partner. So basically, just this whole cycle of different people having sex with other people, and then also moving away from DL or down low. Young black MSMs are less likely to get tested because they either don't want to be outed, or they feel as though they don't really know about the whole STIs, STDs thing, so it's not really a common thing for them to go get tested. Most of the time there's a stereotype of, oh, if you're getting tested and if you're a male, then you must be gay. And a lot of them don't identify as gay, even though they are having sex with other men. So they are more likely unaware of knowing their status, HIV or an STI. But the underlying cause of all of this is basically there's a society pressure. Basically, gay equals white, or a white thing, meaning that young black MSMs are more likely to be on the DL and less likely to get tested. And so right now we are going to move into the condom and dental dam use.
And with the there's everything with that. And sort of our underlying cause for things like not getting tested and having to be on the DL is just general homophobia in our society and in black communities. So that was sort of our underlying cause. So if anybody asks, why would this be that even though they have comparable or lower rates of unprotected sex, you can say homophobia. Anyway, okay, now we can move on.
So, in this little bag, we have some goodies. So, we have dental dams, female condom, lube, and condoms. So first we're going to move into the condoms.
No, you're doing dental dams first.
Here you go.
Okay. So one of the things that I brought was an extra large and a snugger fit condom because there's a lot of misconceptions about these two types of condoms. People seem to think that they are for different sizes of penises / dildos depending on what you're using, and that's not actually true. So I'll show you like the difference between the sizes of them after I use them. Okay, so this is I tried to get a dildo. Yeah, somebody stole them out of the Sexual Awareness Center, so sorry about that. Of course, the first steps of using a condom before you even open up the package, ask consent, check the expiration date, do the pillow test and make sure that that there's air in it, and then open it up with the pads of your fingers. Don't whatever you're doing, trying to look sexy, that's not actually sexy. And then sort of like make sure that it's going the right way. You can go like that if you can't tell, because you know, if it's like the other way, then you're not going to be able to roll it down. It's going to be super awkward. And then, oh, thank you. Okay, so don't forget to pinch the tip during this part. This is optional, especially if the condom is already lubricated, but lube just makes it more pleasurable, I suppose. Oh, thank you. And then, so make sure that you're pinching the top during this so that there's still air at the top. And then after you put the lube on, then you can just roll it down. It's a very small banana, but and then after.
What size is that? What size is that?
This is the extra large. So this way you can see that there's still room at the tip. And that's still, like, even if you're maybe a lesbian or in a lesbian relationship and you're using a dildo, that's still a good thing to practice, you know, just in case something else happens later. Taking it off is a little bit more tricky because you have to make sure that nothing spills out. You can sort of like make sure that nothing spills, so keeping it upright like that, and then tying it off before you throw it out. Is there anything else anyone wants to add that I've forgotten?
Why do you need room at the tip?
That's specifically for male-bodied people, for semen, because otherwise it can, if there's not room, if it's like snug against it, then the semen can come out the top, or it comes out with velocity sometimes, and so it can break the condom.
I think you're gonna eat the banana.
And I don't know. It's kind of gross, actually. It's kind of
So next,
and don't flush it down the toilet. Throw it in the trash.
please, because Charlie will get backed up.
Oh, and I just want to show you the difference between these two sizes really quick. So basically what a snugger fit condom does, it's hard to tell unless you like blow it up, so hang on a minute while so it has sort of like this thing at the end. You see how it goes in right there? It has like this little thing where it's a certain size, and then it sort of like goes thinner right there, and then it goes out again, and it also does not have very much space at the tip. And then what this is that it doesn't have that little thing that goes in, and then like the tip has more space. So the actual width around the condom isn't very different, but maybe slightly because of this thing that goes in right there, but it's about preference, not about size. Because some people like it to be snugger, and some people like it to be looser, and it's a preference thing, not a size thing.
But you also do have condoms out there like Magnum that are physically bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So next we're going to move into dental dams. You have different flavors of dental dams. So this one is a mint flavor. So basically what you use dental dams for is basically for when you're having oral sex with a female-bodied person, or when you or rimming someone, either female-bodied or male-bodied person. And so basically what you want to do is you want to, lay it over the area. Make sure it can move around and stuff. Most of the time for female-bodied people, if the things hot and heavy, most of the time it's already moist down there, moisture in the vagina area, and so you don't really need lube. But for like if you're wanting to do like anal rimming, then you gotta make sure that you put lube on around the area, or on this part of the area too, to get it nice and really wet and moist. And so, but also maybe every now you could, it's possible, you can maybe mark one side to make sure that if it does happen to fall off, then you know which side you were looking on. So basically, you just want to lay it over the area and be able to make it move, but also like hold it down, and so you just lick and go to town on it, basically, and yeah, definitely down.
So yeah, that's the most important part, is making sure that you don't flip the sides, because if you flip the sides, then that's the whole point, goes out the door. because the point is that saliva and vaginal secretions are not touching each other. But that does not mean that STIs can be spread through saliva, because they can't.
So
I can go into more detail about that if you want, because it's kind of more complicated than that.
And then we have a female condom. I know not many people know about female condoms, but basically they look like this huge condom.
I usually call them receptive partner condoms. It's like a little bit. It's like maybe somebody has a vagina, but they don't identify as female.
And then, so inside the female bodied condom, you have a ring that looks like this, which actually looks like the Numa ring, which is basically like birth control, but like just through a ring, you know, in the vagina, you know, that shoots off hormones. But yeah, so it looks exactly like this, and so make sure you don't get them mixed up somehow, because that would be really bad, very bad. And so, yeah, so basically what you do is you leave the ring inside. And yeah, you leave the ring inside, and what you want to do is you want to, you know, squeeze it, and then just shoot it up, and, you know, make sure you get nice and snug, and then, you know, be able to, you know, have some of the condom, like, left outside, and, yeah.
Can't receptive partner condoms also be used for anal sex?
They can. There's not yet. Some of the packages will say do not use with anal sex because there's not yet been a study that says how effective they are during anal sex.
yeah, the ring gets stuck.
You just take the ring out.
Yeah, you're supposed to take the ring out and use it.
Yeah, and so like you wanna like be just I don't know. Just be aware of the fact that there has not yet been a study on the effectiveness of them. You know, like most people can't see any reason why they would be less effective, but because there's never been a study on it, that's why a lot of people don't recommend it.
And then next we are going to talk about abstinence.
So you'll hear a lot in sex education classes that abstinence is the only 100% method of birth control. But unfortunately, the word abstinence in our society is really confusing, and pretty much everyone has like a different idea about what they think that abstinence is. The best way that I can sort of like explain pretty much what you need to do is figure out what's safe and what's not, because there's really no such thing as abstinence and no such thing as sex. For example, somebody might think that having anal sex means that they are still a virgin or are practicing abstinence, but you can still get STIs from anal sex. It can be very dangerous, especially in terms of STIs, and you can also get pregnant from anal sex, anus, vagina, real close. And so knowing the sort of like what you can get STIs from, we don't have enough time to go into everything, you know, what you can get STI from, what you can't, but you can always ask us. So some people will say, you know, abstinence is the only 100% effective form of birth control, but actually it's knowing it's actually knowing what is safe and what is not. So there's all kinds of things that, you know, what can you get it from, what can't you? But the point is knowing and being educated about those things.
A little side note, if you are going to have oral sex unprotected, don't brush your teeth right before.
And we have like this whole like list of things, like if you absolutely cannot use a condom, then you know what should you do and stuff like that. You can ask us more about that, yeah.
Why are you not supposed to brush your teeth?
So everyone has little sores, you know, open sores in their mouth all the time, this applies to oral sex on a male or a female bodied person. That's the most common way that STIs are spread during oral sex, is that semen or vaginal secretions get in the small, just like tears that are always in your mouth, and can be put into your bloodstream, and then that results in getting an STI. So brushing your teeth opens more of those sores, and so that's why it makes it just like more risky. But like I said, we can't get into like there's like so many different things that you can do. And just like in closing, most STIs don't have symptoms, so remember to get tested regularly, even if you don't think that you've engaged in any kind of risky activity. And everybody's different and likes different things, so a lot of times in our society you hear something like women like big penises or men like big breasts or something like that, when really every person is different, and some men don't like breasts at all, so you know everybody's different, and so.
And lastly, if you have sex, you are not going to die.
Woo! Everybody dies. We're all gonna die.